미치 앨범의 The Five People You Meet in Heaven, 우리와 함께한 화요일의 저자죠. 미치 앨범. 어떤 책인지 읽어봅시다. 특이하게 첫 번째 단락이 The End네요. 자, 지금부터 읽어보겠습니다. This is a story about a man named Eddie, and it begins at the end, with Eddie dying in the sun. It might seem strange to start a story with an ending, but all endings are also beginnings. We just don't know it at the time. The last hour of Eddie's life was spent, like most of the others, at Ruby Pier, an amusement park by a great gray ocean. The park had the usual attractions: a boardwalk, a ferry wheel, roller coasters, bumper cars, a taffy stand, and an arcade where you could shoot streams of water into a clown mouth. It also had a big new ride called Freddy's Free Fall, and this would be where Eddie would be killed in an accident that would make newspapers around the state. At the time of his death, Eddie was a squat, white-haired old man with a short neck, a battered chest, thick forearms, and a faded army tattoo on his right shoulder. His legs were thin and veined now, and his left knee, wounded in the war, was ruined by arthritis. He used a cane to get around. His face was broad and craggy from the sun, with salty whiskers and a lower jaw that protruded slightly, making him look prouder than he felt. He kept a cigarette behind his left ear and a ring of keys hooked to his belt. He wore rubber-soled shoes. He wore an old linen cap. His pale brown uniform suggested a working man, and a working man he was. Eddie's job was maintaining the riders, which really meant keeping them safe. Every afternoon, he walked the park, checking on each attraction from the tiled wheel to the pipeline plunge. He looked for broken boards, loose boards, worn out steel. Sometimes he would stop, his eye glazing over, and people walking past through something was wrong. But he was listening, that's all. After all these years, he could hear trouble, he said, in the spits and stutters and thrumming of the equipment. With 50 minutes left on Earth, Eddie took his last walk along Ruby Pier. He passed an elderly couple. "Folks," he mumbled, touching his cap. He nodded politely. Customers knew Eddie, at least the regular one did. They saw him summer after summer. One of those faces you associate with a palace. His work shirt had a pat on the chest that read Eddie above the word maintenance. And sometimes they would say, "Yeah, Eddie maintenance," although he never thought that was funny. Today, it so happened, was Eddie's birthday, his 83rd. A doctor last week had told him he had shingles. Shingles? Eddie didn't even know what they were. Once, he had been strong enough to lift a carousel horse in each arm. That was a long time ago. "Eddie, take me, Eddie, take me." 40 minutes until his death, Eddie made his way to the front of the roller coaster line. He rode every attraction at least once a week. To be certain, the brakes and steering were solid. Today was coaster day, the ghost coaster, they called this one, and the kids who knew Eddie yelled to get in the car with him. Children like Eddie, not teenagers. Teenagers gave him headaches. Over the year, Eddie figured he'd seen every sort of do-nothing. Snarl at you teenager, they was. But children were different. Children looked at Eddie, who with his protruding lower jaw always seemed to be grinning like a dolphin, and they trusted him. They drew in like cold hands to a fire. They hugged his leg. They played with his keys. Eddie mostly grunted, never saying much. He figured it was because it didn't say much that they liked him. Now, Eddie tapped to little boy with backward baseball camp. They raced to the cart and trundled in. Eddie handed his can to the light attendant and slowly lowered himself between the two. Here we go. The one boy squalled as the other pulled Eddie's arm around his shoulder. Eddie lowered the lap bar and clack, up they went. A story went around about Eddie. When he was a boy, growing up by this very same pier, he got in the alley fight. 5 kids from Pekin Avenue had cornered his brother, Joe, and were about to give him a beating. Eddie was a block away on the stoop, eating a sandwich. He heard his brother scream. He ran to the alley, grabbed a garbage can lid, and sent 2 boys to the hospital. After that, Joe didn't talk to him for a month. He was ashamed. Joe was the oldest, the firstborn, but it was Eddie who did the fighting. Can we go again, Eddie, please? 34 minutes to leave. Eddie leaped to the lap bar, gave each boy a sucking candy, retrieved his can, then leaped to the maintenance shop to cool down from the summer heat. Had he known his death was imminent, he might have gone somewhere else. Instead, he did what we all do. He went about his dull routine, as if all the days in the world were still to come. One of the shop workers, a lanky, bunny-cheeked young man named Dominguez, was by the solvent sink, whipping grease off a wheel. "Yo, Eddie," he said. "Dumb," Eddie said. The shop smelled like sawdust. It was dark and cramped with a roll ceiling and pegboard wall that held drills and saw and hammers. Skeleton part of Fun Park. Lights were everywhere. Compressors, engines belt like bombs, the top of a pirate's head. Stacked against one wall, coffee cans of nail and screw, and stacked against another wall, endless top of grease. Greasing a track, Eddie would say, required no more brains than washing a dishes. The only difference was you got dirtier as you did it, not cleaner. And that was the sort of work that Eddie did: spread grease, adjusted brakes, tight-ended bolt, check electric panels. Many times he had longed to leave this place, find different work, build on another kind of life. But the war came. His plans never worked out. In time, he found himself graying and wearing looser pants, and in the state of weary acceptance that this was who he was and who he would always be: a man with sand in his shoes in a world of mechanical laughter and grilled frankfurters. Like his father before him, like the pat on his shirt, Eddie was maintenance, the head of maintenance, or as the kids sometimes called him, the right man at Lobby Pier. 여기까지 읽겠습니다.